Good to see you all here. Obviously, local government conference is important. We want a good partnership with local government, but we obviously want local government also focusing on the basics and getting the job done and delivering for ratepayers as well. And that's what a lot of my initial opening remarks and provocation was about. With that, happy to take your remarks.
They didn't take their messages too well. They did seem quite provoked by it.
Oh, it's important. It's important that you come to LGNZ and actually put your stall out. I think that the councils need to make sure that they are actually managing ratepayers' money incredibly well.
And you're looking at a tool, an Australian-style tool, to ensure that they are actually unable to spend money on non-core tasks that they don't want to spend. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'll let Simeon talk to that.
Well, what it's about is actually making sure there's a cap on non-core expenditure. If you go to look at the New South Wales model, they've got a regulator, IPART, which actually basically regulates what price increases can be put on for non-core infrastructure or non-core programs, so not infrastructure but non-core programs that councils do. Ultimately, it's about actually maintaining cost control for councils, and what we're seeing is we're not seeing that, and we're standing in a building which basically screams that they have not been doing that appropriately.
So you sort of came into government on a mandate of localism regarding Three Waters, and now you're telling councils where and how to spend their money?
No, what we're saying is we want to see councils focusing on the basics. There's very clear responsibilities they have around rubbish, roads, water. Those are the clear mandated responsibilities. But ultimately, if they're going to spend money outside of that, we're actually going to say, well, there should be price caps so that ratepayers who ultimately are bearing the burden and bearing the brunt are not just constantly seeing their rates bill go up. We want to see investment in those core infrastructure elements, but we actually want to see cost under control in those other areas.
How is that localism though? Because it sounds like paternalism.
No, it's about making sure that there is cost control. I mean, and when it comes to...
No, can I answer that? I mean, what I'd say to you is, let's be really clear. You know, New Zealand is about rights and responsibilities. We believe in localism and devolution, and many councils are actually doing a very good job managing their balance sheets, managing their assets incredibly well, managing their discipline on their financial spending well. But with localism also comes rights and responsibilities. And so, yes, there's a right for localism, and we're going to open up, and open up new revenue tools. We've talked about opening up, city and regional deals, which was our idea in opposition, which we want to bring to life. We think it's very important to do that. But equally comes responsibility, not to do dumb stuff. How on earth do you have a city like Wellington where today our pipes break not very far from this complex here? And so what has been going on around the investment in water assets? What is happening on the core challenges?
Do you believe in localism but on your terms?
No. Localism is about rights and responsibilities, as is everything. We want to empower local communities, but we expect to get results for that.
How does it work for voters?
Just exactly as I expect voters to hold us accountable in central government. We're making sure that we're actually working hard to go through government spending. As you know, we realised $24 billion worth of savings. We've been able to make sure we get people tax relief so they keep money in their own pocket and get rid of the bureaucracy, and that will continue.
But couldn't the argument be made that you'd be limiting voters' choice effectively, because you've been narrowing what local government could do, and voters expect that their councils can do different things?
Good councils will have no problem with it. All we're doing is just making sure we in many cases around the world, if I think about Switzerland, if I think about New South Wales, it's quite natural to put benchmarks out about, well, how fast do councils actually answer the phones? How fast do they actually return resource consents? How much does it cost? What level of financial performance have they got? How quickly are they doing their core tasks? All of that is available to people, and actually people make decisions to move into councils or out of councils on that basis as well. So look, the key thing here is we are big fans of localism and devolution, but with that doesn't mean we just send cash to the local communities and we get nothing for it in return. We expect a return on that investment, and we expect the basics to be done brilliantly. And to be honest, we've seen councils get distracted, and so we're making it very clear, given we've got a big investment. I think we've got well over 1,000 elected officials across this country in local government and many local governments and district councils, that we expect results, and we expect them to deliver for ratepayers in the same way we're delivering for taxpayers, in the same way that families have had to tighten their belts, and so have businesses. Sorry?
They are elected. How can you call this devolution when you're basically telling them how to conduct themselves?
No, we're actually being prepared to come to the table and offer revenue tools, to do city and regional deals, to make sure that we lock up key infrastructure that makes the biggest difference to the most amount of people in the fastest amount of time in regions across New Zealand to drive a regional economic growth. That is a different way of working from what has historically been happening in the last 6 years. And so that's the partnership that we want to work for. But if we're going to give taxpayers money, we expect that to be well managed, as we would include the central government spending.
Talk about incentives. You know, are the funding tools basically the carrot and these caps the stick? You
No,
know?
no. We're just making sure that any gross misspending on non-core stuff that doesn't make a difference to people's daily lives at a time when the whole country is challenged. You know, we are looking at New Zealand. Just remember, government spending went up 84%. Debt is now over $100 billion. We're spending $8 to $9 billion in interest bills each year, money that we can't spend on health or education or roads or other things we might like to do. So it's tough times for New Zealand. We're making sure that councils understand you've got tough times too, and we expect you not just to transfer money from central government to local government and actually then have less money to spend for taxpayers.
On local government.
Sorry?
How do you define a nice to have? Is it a convention centre? Is it a bike lane? Is it a, you know, who makes the choice there?
Well, again, that's why we want to change the Local Government Act so that we actually are very clear about infrastructure delivery and service delivery. And I'd just say to you, if you're a customer or you're a ratepayer dealing with councils up and down this country, they want to make sure they get timely responses, they don't run into bureaucracy and red tape, they don't get, you know, everything loaded up against them that makes things incredibly slow and incredibly bureaucratic.
Tori Whānau made a statement in her speech about councils should be able to decide if they want to have Māori wards, and she got quite a big reaction from the room for that. What did you make for that, and do you think that, what sort of feedback have you taken from councils on
Oh, look, I mean, we're very comfortable with councils having Māori wards. That's fantastic. All it is a principle of localism and devolution, that goes back to local communities to make that decision. That's not something that should be imposed from Wellington centrally, which is what happened under the previous administration. That's why we opposed it in opposition, and that's why all we've done is pulled it back to where it once was and said, local communities, you make that decision in the spirit of local democracy. That's your decision. If you want to have Māori wards, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But it should be a decision made by local communities.
So will there be a specified list of cost recovery areas and specified levels?
Look, we're working through, we've announced today the principle around cost recovery. There's a number of things that we actually need to look at. One of the things that is raised by councils around, you know, parking costs and other things like that, where there does need to be a better ability for councils to recover costs. So there's a range of areas we need to work through. But we've also said very clearly when it comes to, you know, the areas that need to be, which aren't core, such as roads, rubbish, water, you know, such as, you know, if you're going to build, you know, social infrastructure like we're sitting in here, actually there needs to be some element of revenue capping so that we're not just allowing councils to pass those costs on to ratepayers for a building which isn't actually even making money. So, you know, and the pipes are bursting outside. So that's what we're going to work through, and we're also looking at how then can we have an independent body such as, you know, if you go to New South Wales, you've got IPART, which actually looks at council expenditure and revenues, and actually make sure that those expenditures are reasonable, they're rational. It's just like what we're doing with water. We're putting economic regulation in place to make sure that there's an efficient investment of ratepayers' money, because that's what ratepayers expect.
All right, we'll do two more questions.
Sorry.
No. Ultimately, this is about making sure that we have the tools in place to ensure efficiency of investment. And that's why we're putting economic regulator in place for water infrastructure, because actually ratepayers expect that every single dollar that is spent has an efficient investment and gets bang for buck.
Minister, it sounded like the two of you essentially declared war on council. Is it war on council, or is it war on council waste?
No, I disagree completely. You know, there are many councils and mayors that are doing a fantastic job up and down this country, a sensational job, and that we appreciate that it's been difficult for everybody in a cost of living crisis, thanks to the previous government's load of inflation that we've all been dealing with. But what I just say to you is, what we are not tolerating is wasteful spending. We want councils to be really attuned and have financial discipline at the heart of what they're doing. So get clear on the prioritisation of projects, get clear on what you can and can't afford, cut your cloth accordingly to make sure that you can deliver your budget and the set of projects that you've got on board, that they are the most important projects, the ones that will make the biggest difference and have the most value for people.
So it's war on council waste.
It's war on council waste, absolutely. I think there's a lot of government council spending. I think there's a lot of bureaucracy in the system that needs to be freed up to actually have a customer mindset to actually serve the ratepayers that are actually paying the bills. Now, many councils, as I said, are doing a good job on that, but we're just making it clear in the same way that New Zealand families have had to adjust their belts, the same way that New Zealand businesses have actually gone to the wall and had to adjust their belts, in the same way that central government is adjusting its belt, as you've been seeing. We're just expecting the same expectation on councils.
Will there be
Sorry, last question.
Will
Sorry?
there be any direct government investment in city deals, or will that funding have to come from private?
Yeah, we'll have more to say about that shortly. Simeon and the team are building up the framework for that. Obviously, there's some good work that's been done on city deals and regional deals, in particular out of Australia. But again, what we want to do is see much more professional management of infrastructure in New Zealand. That means that we need to have clear 30-year pipeline. It means that we've got to have city regional deals of 10-year durations, and we have to have national infrastructure agencies that actually can access funding and financing so that we can actually have a better shot at getting this infrastructure built, because on council or government balance sheets, we won't be able to do it in a hurry. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it.